All right, cool. Let us get started and talk about what we are doing today. Can you please make sure those masks are over our noses? Awesome. So, listen. Okay. So, first off, Mahia was just our weekly check-in. Really important because it's our first lesson of the week, but also I have to see you guys for 2 weeks with the holidays. So we'll go through and have our little photo, and then we will talk about what we're doing for material this week. All right. All right. Cool. So, can we close the screens? We will need our devices later, but I want to make sure you guys are listening and ready to go. All right. So, corridor time, great way for us to build these connections in the class. We have first off our random question, which is talking about what world would you want to walk into. So what kind of like fictional world would you be wanting to walk into? It can be any movie, it can be any book, it can be any TV series. Where would you like to go? Person answering that question today is going to be Avantika. What world would you... guys, let's be respectful to each other because we're sharing. Shh. It would be? You didn't write anything. There's no fictional world you'd want to live in?
Yes, anime world.
Anime world? A specific anime that you'd want to live in? Is there a specific anime you'd want to live in though? No, just anime in general. Some people are just happy with the current world and doesn't want to live in the fictional worlds. Anybody else have a fictional world they would like to live in? Oi! Let us be respectful to each other and listen. Okay, that's one of the things that we do when we're trying to show respect. So, we've so far heard that no, there's no fictional world I want to be in because I'm happy with the current, I like where we are right now. We've also heard anime. I heard someone else wanting to share. Who wants to share their fictional world they'd like to live in? Change your mind? This is our current reality, but if you could live in a fictional world like in Harry Potter, would that be where you want to live? So for me, my fictional world that I would like to walk into and live would be Harry Potter. Because I think magic's cool. Magic is cool! Casting spells and stuff. Alright. Anybody else? No? Okay. Micro goal for the week.
Finish as much work as I can do.
So Noah's saying he wants to finish as much work as possible. I like that. Being efficient. Wait. If you guys can't manage having no seating plan, I will start putting back in a seating plan, all right? Right now you're giving me evidence that you guys can't manage sitting next to your friends. Show me that you can. So, micro goal for this week, person that's sharing that today is going to be Eric. What's your micro goal for this week? Finish your work? I think that's a really good one. We're back in school. Does anyone else have a goal that they want to share for this week? Nah. It's really important, I think, to kind of get settled back into school and getting some work done and things like that. And lastly, does anyone have anything they would like to share before we move on to the theory? No, we're good? All right, so let us switch gears then and talk about what we're doing today. So what we're going to be doing today is starting our new unit, which is going to be on plants. I've nicknamed this plant unit the game of life because plants is all about us being able to understand life. Plants. So, the main overarching thing the main overarching thing that we are thinking about for this topic is about living things and life. It's going to be some of our biology components to it. Now, one of the things that scientists need to do as a beginning step for doing a lot of biology stuff is thinking about categories. So what we're going to do today in our lesson is explore how scientists make categories and categorize things. So that's what we're looking at as our skill set. Cool. And last thing that we are thinking about is our weekly Fakatoki before we start diving into the hard teaching of it. So we are thinking about tahi te tu tara ke o te rami, which is canopus is visible out in the open expanse of the sky. An outstanding individual. Cannibals. An outstanding individual. So, an outstanding individual, we are now back at school. You can think about some outstanding individuals that are your friends, that are your teachers and things like that. And also I want you to think about how can you be an outstanding individual as well. All right, let's switch gears and talk about what we are doing for today's lesson. So first thing I want to do is just remind you guys of the routines now that we're back at term. Then I'm going to give you guys an activity where you're going to be grouping some beads to think about classification and what the purpose of it. We have an article that I want you, Google Slides I want you to read called Tapa Ignoa. We will then look at interpreting keys. I'll give you some notes on living and non-living, and then you guys will have a chance to create your own keys as well. So like I said, the topic of today is thinking about classification. All right, so let us get our science notebooks out and make sure things are written down and learning checklists are glued in. All right, so we are starting a new topic today. So what I'm going to be passing out in a moment is your checklist for this topic. And you're going to glue that into the next page on your science notebook. So I'm going to pass out your checklist. And you'll need to glue them into your... You can go borrow one, just grab it there. No worries about grabbing it, you alone time. Just grabbing something. I don't think about it. A few more minutes. That's right. The first things first, we're gluing in our new checklist. If you need a glue stick, just go help yourself to load. All right, so glue this into your notebooks. You should all have a science notebook. Let's go grab one. Okay, all right, I'll show.
4.
Yes, fine. Josh? Alright, glue that in. Alrighty. So, you should have that glued in. On the next page, I want to make sure you have your date written down and your learning intention. So the date for today is the 2nd of May. And you should also have the learning intention written down. I am modeling it in my notebook so you guys know what your notebook should look like. So, what you should have in your notebook is on this page here, your checklist, which is in a nice bright green paper. And then on the next page, you are ready to start taking your notes. So we are going to explore how scientists categorize. So we're exploring how scientists categorize things. For your mahia, your do now. It is in your, you just did your weekly check-in. Online. So you don't need to worry about writing any answers for that. But if you are having internet issues, then you should do your weekly check-in on your books. All right. So I'll leave that up for a second to make sure you guys have that copied down, and then we're going to move on. Cool. So, for today's lesson, we are going to be looking at number 1 and number 2 on our checklist. So number 1 is identifying if something's living or non-living. And we are doing number 2, use and create classification keys. So we'll take those 2 off. You guys can tick number 1 and number 2 off on that success criteria. That is what we're covering for today. All right, can I keep moving on?
Yes. Can I repeat it on the other side of the I mean, on the other side of the
Yeah, but you're using one of your bathroom classes for this term.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Okay, so before we dive into the new content, I want us to do some routine reminders. So that way you guys are aware. Some of the little changes I've made. So, first off,
Do you want us to sanitize them?
just as a reminder, phones need to be either in your pocket or in your bag.
In your pocket or in your bag?
Yes? If you need to look anything up because you want to access the internet, then you are doing that through your devices. Okay? If I see phones out, I will take them. All right, now I am mindful that some of you guys do do charge your phones in the science room because we have a lot of outlets. And I want to remind you guys that I don't want you doing that. I don't want you charging your phone through your devices because that makes your devices go flat. But what I have done is that in my little lock-up station, my little closet, I have a power strip, and I also have, I'm gonna wait. I'm trying to be nice and letting you guys charge your phones, but there's a conditions to it. I have phone chargers and things, but they just have to go into the closet. So if you do need to charge anything, let me know. I'm happy to do it for you. But they should not be charging on the side benches, and they should not be charging off your computers. All right. I have decided to make some changes with the loan charges to streamline our kind of efficiency. So basically, I don't need any loans if you're doing any small items. So if you're taking a pen, a glue stick, a marker, a pencil, I don't need you to give me a loan. Just walk on up and take it. If you are borrowing a big ticket item, like a calculator or headphones, then I need a loan item. And I'm more flexible now with what I'm taking as loans. I just need something of yours to make sure I get mine back. Does that make sense? Yes. Yes? So if you need a glue stick, come up and grab one. You don't need to check in with me. Make sure you bring it back at the end. All right. Last thing is your bathroom passes for this term. So let me show where we are going to be gluing in our bathroom passes. So, everybody, if you have yours from last term, so I'll let you guys know. So bathroom passes, I think we decided to have them glued in the back. The sticker thing's at the front. The bathroom one should be at the back. Sticker one's at the back? Where's the bathroom one? Whichever. Back, front. But we're going to glue that in. So in a moment, I'll pass out your bathroom passes for term 2. All right. So, you guys have bathroom passes left over from term 1. I'm happy if you want to hold on to them. The other option, and I'm going to change the bathroom pass policy. So, you know how I said with the bathroom passes, if you don't use it, I'll give you a stamp to your lolly chart?
What's that?
For your lolly chart, so that way when you have a row, you guys can cash in and get yourself straight.
Wait, we didn't use it.
If you didn't use it. I'm going to up the deal. If you don't use it, and I'm doing a lolly chart check, and you don't have a row, you will be allowed to use one of the bathroom passes to get a lolly instead. Okay, let me try to explain that again. So, you know how I do. Guys, this will be a lot easier if you just stop talking. Alright. You know how you have these lolly charts, correct?
Yes.
Yes? And you know how I give you stamps whenever you get work done, or stickers whenever you get work done? Yes? And then I say every so often, do you want me to check? Do you want to cash it? And when you say yes, I let you then pick a lolly or a temporary tattoo or whatever one of my little prizes.
Temporary tattoo.
Alright? Now some of you guys don't have full rows, correct?
Yes.
But you want something. So, I'll make a deal. I will allow you to use your bathroom pass as a row. So you can cash in, and I will mark off on the bathroom passes, meaning you won't be able to go to the bathroom, but you will be able to get a loan. You are only allowed to cash in one for the lesson. Does that make sense? And I will have this policy for the old ones as well.
Oh, so you can still use them?
Yeah. So you can still use the old ones, and you can still use the old ones if you want to cash it on a lolly now. So here's your new one for this term. You're only cashing one for a lolly each. I'll let you know when we have a cash time. Now, it's not a free-for-all, come up and cash in whenever. It's, you've got to wait till I offer it.
Wait, what? Oh, what? You're never
No, I do all the time.
Miss, can I
Alright, the phone needs to be put away. Clay, the phone needs to be put away. Do you want to use your bathroom pass? Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Stop. Right. So make sure these are glued in, because if you lose them, you're not getting another one. You're going to ask your friends to borrow bathroom passes them. Remember, as I said, they are bathroom passes. If you don't use them, you can cash them in when I have a lolly kind of check day. All right? Lolly check day. So it happens when you guys are doing some book work, and there's some quiet time so I can actually walk around and offer it.
What?
It is not come up to Miss whenever you want a lolly, because I am trying to run a class. It's too disruptive. So I will let you know, and I will say, okay guys, I'm doing a lolly check today. Alright? Now, when it comes to the bathroom, you guys know the rules. Can't go the first 30 minutes of class, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another sanitizer bottle. I'm going to write bathroom on there, and I'm going to put it on the table for the person that's out. There's only one person out at a time. So this helps me know who's out. Okay? Are we okay to move on? In the Alright, I'm taking some beans out because unfortunately someone was using their phone in class. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do for the various groups is I'm going to be passing out a handful of beads, and I want you guys to think about how could you group those beads together. So try to make sure they don't run off the table. Now, when you are grouping these beads, you can't have any groups with one bead by itself. So the smallest group that you're allowed to have is 2 beads. So think about how you would group them. Group them together. Yeah. I just can't have any beads by themselves. So think about how could you group those beads. So how can you group those beads together? Alright, well let's start grouping them by color. Remember, I don't want any beads by themselves. How could you group them together? How could you group them together? Remember, I don't want any beads by themselves.
Yes.
What I want us to now think about after doing that activity is the purpose of classification. So my first question for you guys was, were there multiple ways that you could group those beads together? Were there multiple ways to group those beads together? Yes or no? Yes, there were multiple ways you could do that. Did you guys notice that sometimes when you group the beads together, it wasn't a perfect group? So you put all the same colors together, but then you would have a mixture of shapes. Yeah? So, let's have a moment to think. Why do you think we classify as scientists? What's the benefit of it? Why classify things? Why do you think scientists, or humans in general, why do you think we classify things and group things together? Well, we can ask that question as a classification, what's human, what's not human. But why do you think we want to know that? What if, excuse me, gentlemen. What happened was I was trying for us to have a discussion about why do you think scientists or humans in general want to classify things. But you guys were too busy having a conversation by yourselves that it slowed the whole class down. And I was trying to move on to some notes. So, anybody want to share why they think we classify? Why do we group things? Why did I ask you to take those beads and try to put them together? How did you group them? Color? So they all have the same color? Sometimes. Same texture, yeah. Think about why we classify. All right, so first thing that we're thinking about when we think about why do we classify? So I want you guys to write that down in your notes. This is actually starting the notes for today. The why do we classify? I want you to write it in the book. All right. So lots of different reasons why we classify. Dropping all my pens everywhere. One of the reasons why we classify is to help us identify. So let's say I don't know what something is. I can use classification as a means to figure out what I have. So that's the first thing. I classify so I know what something is. The other reason why we classify is for comparison purposes. So we think about what's the same between things and what things are different. So we identify to see what's similar. And to see what traits are different. And you guys saw that with the beads, didn't you? You grouped things that were similar. So one of the things that you said were similar was the color. Some of the things you said were different were their shapes. And that's how you started to figure out, okay, this is how we're grouping the beads. The thing to remember about classification is that there's more than one way to group things together. So there's not always a right or wrong answer. We're trying to interpret our observations and think about how can things fit in groups. And by putting things into groups, it really helps us because then we know what an item might be. We also can see what's similar and what's different. So we can write about it and compare and contrast. So I'll leave that up on the board to make sure you guys have that written down in your notes. And then we will move on. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move us on. All right. So I'm going to move us on. Well, currently you guys have enough for everyone gets a lolly. So, but it looks like you guys are going to keep up with the way you're behaving. You're not going to have that opportunity anymore either. And in fact, you're very far away from some of the bigger prizes. All right. Can we? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the slide and move on to the next activity. If you don't have the notes written down, look over to your neighbor. Hopefully someone next to you does have it written down. So let us talk about our next activity, which is Tapa Ignoa. So in a moment, we are going to be using your devices to read a document. We are going to be, in a moment, reading this document called Tapa Ignoa. But before we start, I want us to think about what that title means. So, Tapa Ignoa, what can we derive, and what do we think that this document might be about when we look at that? What words have we seen before? Tapa. So where have we seen Tapa before?
I think that's a song.
A song? Ignoa. Have you guys seen that word before? What does Ignoa mean? Name. Good. So this has something to do with naming. Tapa is the other word I want us to think about. Think about Wellington. There's a museum called Tapa. Yeah? What things are stored in Tapa? Museum stuff. Old stuff. Historical stuff. Are those historical or ancestral stuff? Do you guys think the stuff in Tapa is important for us? No. Yeah. These are treasures. So we're thinking about these two words together.
Treasure name.
The treasure of names, the meaning in names, the power of names. That's what we're thinking about in this document. So, what I want you guys to do for our activity, oh wait, Trying to give instructions. What I want you guys to do for this activity is I want you guys to read Tapa Ignoa, and it gives you lots of information about how Māori would group things together and name things. So it's about Māori classification of, you know, the nature, our plants and birds and animals and things like that. So I want us to look at some of, you know, a different way of grouping things. Because we think very Western in science, but that way is not the only way of how we think about it. So I want you to do that, and then to help follow up with that task is I want you to do the classification work on the Google Docs. There's a Google Doc for this lesson. I want you to open up, and there's some questions that tie in to the Te Papa Ignoa reading task. So there's some things to kind of summarize what you've read. There's also some information about checking the different ways things are named. I'm happy if you want to work individually or if you want to work in groups with this. But this is the task that we are now moving on to. So go ahead and get started. And while you guys are doing that, I can do a lolly check, okay? Yep. So you need to get to work. So open up your devices. You guys are welcome to work together.
Whoa! Yo, I don't know.
Alrighty, cool. So, I just want to summarize today's lesson. If you've borrowed anything from me, can you please, just put it over there, into the little container, the pins. If you've borrowed anything, please return it. Now, stop talking so I can recap the lesson, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. So, just to recap, we were exploring how scientists categorize things. Off the checklist, we are thinking about, can you identify things as living or non-living? We haven't gotten to that one. We'll cover that in the next lesson. And you guys have started to think about classification keys. Again, we haven't finished it, but we'll continue basically this lesson in our next lesson. So we'll wrap it up. Okay? So, go ahead and pack up. If you want to leave your books, you can leave your books in that blue box over there. Make sure you grab the spray, some paper towels, and wipe down my tables for me. All right, we'll finish this lesson in our next class.